Hello and welcome to Growing Pains, the marketing podcast for parent and baby brands who want to grow and get more consistent sales, but without the overwhelm of feeling like you have to be online 24/7. I'm Sophie, your host and a Facebook and Instagram ad strategist who specialises in parent and baby brands, as well as a mum of two girls. Join me each week as I, alongside some wonderful guests, share practical tips and advice about how you can use and combine marketing strategies to get more impact for your effort. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Growing Pains. I'm kicking off the podcast with a mini-series of 3 episodes talking about one of the key concepts that I talk about all the time over on Instagram and to all of my clients as well. And I call it the P.M.T Approach. I've actually named it quite recently, so you probably haven't heard me talk about it before, but the concept is something I talk about all the time. And that is that, especially with Facebook ads, but with all your marketing really, it's all about getting in front of the right people with the right message at the right time. Now, that's not a new concept. It's not a concept I even made up. I did make up the name, but it's something that with Facebook ads, once you really understand it and once you understand how it really works with your business and your marketing, it can make a massive difference. How you think about your marketing can make you more strategic, and it really, really helps focus your attention on your ads, where you need to be putting your money and your time and your focus. So there's 3 episodes. The first one will be covering all about people. The second will be messaging, and the third will be time. And often you'll hear me talk about people as audiences, but that didn't work for the acronym. So we'll go for people or audiences. Think of them interchangeably. Okay, so let's kick off. Now, there's 3 or 4 audiences that I normally talk about, and I refer to them as cold, warm, hot, and then customers who've already purchased from you. And these are really the core groups of people that you will come across your business, and you really need to move them from being cold, so have never heard about your business. The aim really is to get them to purchase from you. So the way I normally explain it is, if you imagine like a V, and at the top you've got your cold audiences, underneath you've got warm, then you've got hot, and then you've got people who've purchased from you. And essentially the concept is, and this is, if you hear someone talking about a funnel, this is exactly what we're talking about, is that you move them from being cold right at the top of the funnel. So you've got loads and loads of cold people who have never heard about your business before. You then move them through to having engaged with your business in some way, so they become warm. They might follow you on social media, join your email list. Down to hot, so they really engage with you. They go on your website and maybe look at a product, add it to their basket, and then they go to that tiny point at the bottom, which is having purchased from you. Really, you need to make sure you've got enough people in the top of the V moving their way down the funnel all the time, so that you're getting those consistent sales and consistent income, really. Because if you haven't got enough people at the top, and if you haven't got people moving through the different stages, then you're not going to see those consistent sales, and that's where it can get a bit stagnant. There's something I see quite often with people who they start off their business, they launch, they have this brilliant first few months where they've got lots of people who have they've moved from not knowing about them into their warm audience, where they're kind of building up to the launch. They tell all their friends and family, they kind of build up a little bit of buzz. They move lots of people from cold to warm, and then often through to hot, and then purchase. So they have this funnel, but what they're not doing is bringing new people in at the top, so new people into that cold audience. And that's where it goes really stagnant, when you're relying on like organic social primarily, is what I see quite a lot. You're not moving enough people into the top of that funnel to move them all the way through, and that's where you get the inconsistent sales, or the need to be on organic social all the time, because if you're not on, then you're not posting, then you're not getting sales, or you feel like the need to do sales all the time, because that's how you convert your warm audience through to buying from you. And we'll talk about some of that messaging, about how you can avoid having to discount all the time, when we get onto the messaging episode, which is next. So in this first episode, I am going to go through each of the 4 different audiences and talk a bit more about them, a bit about who is in those audiences, how you can attract them, what you need to do to kind of be moving them through each stage. So let's kick off with a cold audience. So these are, as I mentioned, are people who've never heard of you. But the key thing here is, it's not people who've never heard of you, because that's a lot of people, right? It's people that have never heard of you and are probably going to be interested in what you offer. So these aren't people who are just anyone random. These are people who we think have a qualified interest. So that could be that they have an interest that's related to your product, especially, I mean, in the parent and baby world, the fact that they're a parent often qualifies them. There are a lot of people that aren't parents, right? Even that they have a parent of a specific age child might be something that you think these are more likely to be interested in my product. You can get even more specific. So, parent of a child of a certain age that is interested in eco-friendly solutions or sustainable clothing or more luxury items. So there's different ways of kind of categorizing people, but you really want to be thinking about who these people are that are likely to be interested in your, and that's called, when we're building out our ads, that's called an interest-based audience. So they are people that are likely to be interested, and we can look for things that are related to people's like demographics. So whether they're a parent or not, we can have a look at their interests. So whether they are interested in like sustainable clothing, and then we can also look at things like their job, their income, where they live, that sort of thing. So there's lots of different elements in Facebook. And in another episode, I will go much more into the detail of how we kind of use interest to attract people. But for now, it's like that's how we find our cold audiences. We use interests. The other way is that we use something like a seed audience of people who we know are interested in our product. And normally, if it's a large enough pool of people, we'll use our purchase customer data. So data on our customers who've purchased from us. If that's not quite big enough, we can include our warm audience as well. So that could be people who've gone on our website. It could be people who've viewed certain products. It could be people who've interacted with our social media, depending on how many people are in each pot. And we take that seed audience and then we make something called a lookalike, which is then going to tell Facebook to find people who are similar to this seed audience. So if X person has bought from us, I want you to find more people like that. So those are the two ways that we can find cold audiences using Facebook ads. There are obviously other ways to find cold audiences and get your product or service out to more people. And that's things like, using influencers, PR, organic social media, collaborations with other businesses. And what I would say is, and this is something that you'll hear me talk about quite a lot, is the reason I'm not doing my podcast solely on Facebook ads, just me talking about Facebook ads, is because I never recommend that you only use Facebook ads as your only marketing strategy. You need to be using lots of different types of marketing to make sure that you're getting out to as many people as possible. But the key for me and my whole ethos is about doing it smartly. So how can you link these different marketing methods together so that you're not always doing hundreds of different things? So you kind of nail down 2 or 3 strategies that really work for you, and you kind of build this funnel that has consistent people coming in at each of the different stages. So whether that's PR, influencers, collaborating with other brands, organic social media, definitely work on that. But what you really want to think about is, how can I make this strategy work for me rather than me having to do it all the time? And only when I do it, do I get sales? You really want to have systems in the background working when you're not, essentially. So that's our cold audience, and really thinking about how many people you're getting into that audience every day. So if you think about like the top of the funnel, if you know that at the bottom of your V, to get sales, you need 5 sales a day to make your business worthwhile, how many people are you getting in at the top of your funnel? Because if you're getting, say, 100 people in a day, let's say on your website, and then you're getting 5 people purchasing, you need 5 people to purchase. That's a 5% conversion rate. And actually for ecom, that's pretty high. Like normally we'd be looking more like a 2 to a 2.5% conversion rate. So if you need 5 sales, then you need to have 200 people on your website every day. Like, how are you getting that? Are you getting that through your organic social? Are you getting that through your email marketing? Are you using Google? Like, what's getting those people to that site? And if you're not getting those people, that's where you need to start looking at Facebook ads to support that, because you can track it and you know how many people are coming in, and it's the right people as well. So it's all about that targeting. Next down, you've got the warm audience. So these are people who, you've got your cold audience, you've like gone out and found all these people who might be interested, and a certain proportion of those people will be like, oh yeah, I am interested, and you take them down a level. So that might mean that they go onto your social media, they join your email list, they might go onto your website, they might go onto your Facebook or Instagram shop, they might watch a video that you've posted on either through an ad or organically. These are people who have said, yep, I like the look of what you do on the surface, and I'm willing to kind of take the next step with you. And really, when we think of a funnel, that's all we're really asking people to do, is take the next step with us. So they might be on your social media, they might be on your email list, and really the key thing here is that we we can't just let them go on our social media or join our email list and then just let them sit there. We really need to nurture them. We really need to be thinking about what we can do once we're there, sending regular emails, making sure that we're visible on our social media. Although what I would say with social media is, organically, it's not about posting every single day. You don't have to be to nurture your audience, you don't have to be visible 24/7. Like, put your own parameters in. Especially when you're nurturing your followers, stories are such a brilliant way to do that, because far less like high intensity and kind of time. You obviously need to do post on your grid, and reels are a brilliant way of getting more reach and reaching more people. But in terms of nurturing the people that are already on your social media, stories are brilliant, and making sure that it works for you and you don't feel like it's this massive burden on your shoulders, which is something that I talk to clients quite a lot about. So yeah, keep them nurtured and make sure that you don't just kind of get them there and then leave them to kind of go cold, essentially. Next one down is your hot audience. And these are people that have taken steps towards buying from you. So again, it's the next step towards the purchase, and that is going onto your website and adding something to cart or initiating the checkout. And that's like to the point where they're about to buy. Now, normally, especially for e-com, you're looking at like average is about a 68% abandoned cart rate. So that means that for every 100 people that add something to cart, 68 of them will abandon it. And that's obviously a really high percentage. And to be honest, we're working with parent and baby brands. I actually see that that's normally a bit higher than that. I just think in terms of like parent life, you're often, especially with young children, you are constantly kind of distracted, or you're doing something while the baby's napping and then the baby wakes up, or you're doing it while your kid's at the park and then they fall off a swing or something and you've got to go over there. Like, it's very easy to get distracted and have something in your cart and then kind of forget about it. Now, the key thing here really is to make sure that you have your abandoned cart emails set up on your platform, to make sure that you are sending out an email reminding people that they did have something in their cart and to go back and check out. And then you can also use ads to get back in front of them and sort of remind them that they were looking at this thing and did they want to check out. And in the next episode, we'll talk about messaging, and then like how you can kind of hook them back in and get them back onto your site. And the final episode, we'll talk about time, like when do you do that? How frequently would you do that? Like, you don't want to be stalking them, but you also don't want to miss your opportunity. So those are your kind of hot people who have added to cart or initiated checkout, but they haven't made that purchase. And then finally, you've got people who have already purchased from you. And these are the people who are your like loyal customers, hopefully, the ones that are hopefully going to come back and buy from you again. And we definitely don't want to miss these out of ads. And often I see that people are always looking at filling the top of the funnel, which you absolutely need to do. But you've really got to nurture these people who've already bought from you, because if you're looking, your goal is consistent sales, we really want them to be seeing an ad that you're running and like tagging a friend and saying, I bought these and these were amazing. We really want them to be coming back to you and buying again. We really want them to see you doing a sale and for them to go, oh yes, amazing, right, I'm going to grab another one of these while it's got a sale on. So you really want to be kind of using these people in your ads. And next time I will be talking about how we can kind of talk to them and when we include them in different campaigns. So those are the 4 different groups of people. And in the next episode, I'm going to be talking about what each of those groups, what do we talk about when we're doing Facebook ads? Like, how do we hook them in, and how do we then move them to the next step through this funnel, so that we've always got people starting at the top and moving their way down. It's probably worth saying as well, people won't always move through your funnel at the same pace. So some people will literally see it, will go onto your website, add to cart and purchase, and they will do all of that within 10 minutes. I know I have done that with some ads that have been totally spot on. Like, I always remember when I had my second Ottilie, I was like lying in bed feeding her in the middle of the night, and I was scrolling on Facebook, and there was an ad for the Little Sock Company. And it's basically socks that stay on. That's kind of their thing. And they've got like little grippy bottoms at, like on the bottom of the sock. And I'd just spent the whole day, it was like freezing cold. I just spent the whole day putting her socks back on, not being able to find a pair of socks that would stay on her flipping feet. And I literally was just like, oh yeah, that's what I need. And on this ad, it had all this social proof, all these comments from parents saying, oh my God, these socks actually stay on. This is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining me this week. To go alongside this mini series, I've created a special download for you all that's going to help you look at how you build your audiences, craft your message, and get in front of people at the right time. To get your copy, you can go to thesocialpod.com/PMT Approach, or just click on the link in the show notes. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they're released. And if you have enjoyed these podcast episodes, I'd really love to ask you to leave a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews are one of the major ways that Apple ranks their podcasts, and it only takes a few seconds, but really does make a massive difference to new people finding me. Thank you again for joining me, Sophie, in this episode of Growing Pains. See you next time. So I literally went onto their website and spent, £10-15 on socks, and they do work, they're amazing, but it's such a great example of where I went through their funnel like in lightning speed, because they addressed a pain point. Their targeting was really good. I was the right person, and they had the right message for me at exactly the right time when I needed it. So I always give that as an example, as a really fab ad, and that's what we're aiming to do for you and all of your customers as well, and that's how you get those sales in. So hopefully you'll join me next time. Go and have a look. Episode number 2 is ready for you. So go and take a listen about the kind of messaging that you can do for each of these groups of people. Thank you so much for joining me this week. To go alongside this mini series, I've created a special download for you all that's going to help you look at how you build your audiences, craft your message, and get in front of people at the right time. To get your copy, you can go to thesocialpod.com/PMT Approach, or just click on the link in the show notes. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they're released. And if you have enjoyed these podcast episodes, I'd really love to ask you to leave a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews are one of the major ways that Apple ranks their podcasts, and it only takes a few seconds, but really does make a massive difference to new people finding me. Thank you again for joining me, Sophie, in this episode of Growing Pains. See you next time.